Hello. Welcome to ohmTown and ohmTown Daily News Show. I am Mayor Watt, and that is ohmTown.com, and that's what powers this show. I'm here every day at 6. Yeah, I really am. I'm messing around with the camera and lighting and other stuff, so if you stumble into this VOD or pick up the podcast and want to swing by and hang out for a little bit, and you can tell me if you dig the audio, the lighting, the video, that'd be great. I have music playing right now. That's supposed to be spooky, but this one is very just kind of the same ding ding. Anyway, I am being a dingbat right now. At any rate, what is ohmTown? ohmTown is a whole bunch of shows that I want to bring to Twitch and a news aggregator at ohmTown.com. And eventually I'll bring it all as channels to Twitch and ohmTown. And it's a podcast as well, and it's over on YouTube, but I don't stream directly there anymore. At any rate, if you go over to ohmTown.com, you'll find a website that has 6 main categories: create, news, education, entertainment, social, and technology, and within it about 50 channels of news that's aggregated and the ability to leave messages there, vote things up. It's not active for the voting, but it will be soon enough. I've got some work being done, so consider it a construction site. That said, I've already selected a bunch of articles. Let's get into it. One of the things that I've added is exclamation point showbot will lead you to a website that allows you to vote. And if you hit exclamation point S and a title or a URL or other things, whatever really is on your mind. I mean, I'll just delete whatever else is there. I let you vote for the topics that are interesting. I am not an island unto myself, so if you are interested in taking part in this, that's why I've put everything together. So it's all interactive, and you can throw your comments in chat, and you can do that exclamation point S, and that will allow you to leave a message. That said, first article today is federal government considers sharing costs for catastrophic cyber incidents. If you don't know about this, there has been some major acceleration of cybersecurity related development within the government, right? So there's development that's on one side of the fence, the commercial side, the private side, and then inside the fence, the federal government has a very interesting take on the liability that might be coming from cybersecurity incidents. Let's take your average crypto breach. Typically in the millions of dollars for all of those that are reported publicly. And imagine if those are FDIC insured. You're talking about the recent one that I heard was almost $1 billion when you translate the cryptocurrency from the bridge into real dollars and not just bits. You're talking about some serious liability for insurance. Well, that's something that the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, is suggesting, and that's because private insurance companies are starting to raise their rates. All of this is actually required when you reach a certain level of business. The C-suite has to sign documents saying that they are cognizant of cybersecurity related issues and are taking strides to mitigate any breaches and any incidents and any liability and basically the long tail of a breach. for the most part, once a breach takes place, most people don't even realize it for about 18 months. And then a patch comes out. So let's take a look at what this article has to say. The article is stashed inside the Mobile channel. Mobile, by the way, is a channel that's going to be pivoting from what it initially was, which was basically just socially driven news, over to a crowdfunding service that's part of my company. It's not ready for prime time even remotely yet, but I'm talking about it just to give context when Mobile changes. The Treasury Department and Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, now known as CISA, recently asked stakeholders in the industry to weigh in on whether there's a need for a federal insurance response to catastrophic cyber incidents, and if so, how much, and what will the federal government do. I would imagine that it's similar to FEMA, but it will focus on cybersecurity incidents. They're less overt. The the knowns and unknowns after the breach is typically a broader gamut than even what happens in a natural disaster, and that's pretty expansive. And the real problem here is that you don't know for a long period of time. So I'm sure that there's going to be some discussion taking place publicly, and a lot of it privately. But Inez Kagubare over at The Hill discusses this in this article. Again, it's titled "Federal Government Considers Sharing Costs for Catastrophic Cyber Incidents." I really want to know the full expanse of what they plan on covering, because this seems like it would be a private risk but public burden. And while I agree with public money being doled out to remedy situations, not all states take an active role in kind of foisting upon businesses of various levels cybersecurity mechanisms. So some states now are actually putting together organizations within the state that reach out to businesses and say, hey, we can do an audit of your business to make sure that you are on good cybersecurity footing. But it costs money, it takes time, it exposes people to risk and additional financial burden and processes that maybe they're not going to be interested in doing. But when you reach a certain level, you as the executive suite actually bear the burden, and ultimately by proxy, the employees of your company. Because the moment that a breach takes place, the very first thing that the board looks at is going to be, well, we're going to have to pay a big price. Who can we fire so that we still have a runway? The request stems from recommendations made by the GAO suggesting that the agencies conduct a joint assessment to determine the federal government's role in cyber insurance, and this comes as private insurance firms have significantly increased premiums for companies seeking cyber coverage, and in some cases denied coverage for state-sponsored cyber attacks as their frequency has surged over the past few years. Essentially, every company should have somebody that is skilled in the art of cybersecurity, regardless of the size of the company. Even a one-person company can have quite a bit of personally identifiable information, information that can be exploited, and so everybody should have somebody that can come in and audit to make sure that the doors are closed at least. And kind of like an attorney, never try and represent yourself, never try to do your own cybersecurity. You want somebody that isn't going to make any assumptions, and they are going to try to get in. It's really it's actually quite fun for people to try and get into a system when they are in that line of work. So not only is it lucrative, most people with a 2-year degree in cybersecurity can make somewhere around $80,000. And it really is all about ambition and drive, motivation. So it is a booming market, folks. And this is why, because even the government wants to keep on pushing that cybersecurity is important. We do more online than we do in the real world nowadays. That said, I did not throw this article into the chat. So, and this is kind of how it works. So you do exclamation point and then whatever it is you're going to say, and that gets thrown into Showbot. And then if you go to the Showbot at ohmTown.showbot.tv, you can actually vote on an article. So if you thought that this article was great, open up that link over to ohmTown.showbot.tv and vote for it. The next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. Mark Zuckerberg has pumped millions into Meta's bid to copy popular platforms like Clubhouse, Substack, and Amazon, but has usually failed because of internal debates and clumsy execution. I think it kind of goes more than that. The article is going to argue about something, but I have a different take, coming from the business perspective, coming from the technology perspective, and in this particular instance, all three combined. So there's business, technology, and society. And that society one really makes a difference here. Meta said Tuesday it's shutting down Bulletin, a Substack competitor. Meta has also experimented with imitations of Clubhouse and even Amazon's marketplace, and Meta's mixed results show that greater resources don't always merit greater success in tech. And basically they talk about Oscar Wilde and some other things. But let's go over to the article. This is in businessinsider.com, and it's written by Lakshmi Varanasi. And here's Zuckerberg saying, wait, you thought I was human? Anyway, the idea that you can throw some money at something, clone something that already exists, that already has a great population in place, it's entrenched in history, it's been there for a while, suddenly means that you are going to succeed. Well, that's not the case. And here is really why. Unless you can add some value that is over and above the friction of having to go from what already exists and has an entrenched population over to your solution, you're not going to get anybody. That friction is based in society and not the technology, right? Like, it's more about, well, I've got to give up everything that I've done over in Substack, or it's everything that I have to give up over in Amazon's marketplace and take the risk on going over here. You have to pay, the company will have to pay more to bring somebody over to Facebook to do their marketplace. Or why would I go over there unless, if I can grow my pie, then that's great. If it gets bigger because I move over to Meta or Facebook or whatever you want to call them today or tomorrow, and it's easy for me to do it, then I'll do it. But if there isn't anybody there that's buying and I can focus my costs on Amazon's marketplace, why would I ever bother going over to Meta? They had better have some middleware that just grabs my Amazon listings and clones them over for their marketplace. But, who knows if there's a fire hose for that. And the same thing applies for Substack and Clubhouse and countless other things. It just doesn't work unless there's a population there. And as Reddit has done and many others have done, you can create bots and make it all fake, and then people start posting. This is exactly what Reddit did. Even the founders of Reddit have admitted to it. And I'm running up against that kind of an issue where I don't have enough engagement on ohmTown.com for it to be kind of a self-running community. The only thing that really at this point right now is that I use ohmTown professionally for myself, professionally and personally. And so it will persist. I just happen to open it up for everybody else, and I hope people get a kick out of it and actually post. But most people right now that I see simply just click on the links and move on. So it says here Zuckerberg has tried numerous times over the years to launch imitations of other successful tech platforms, and he's often failed trying. There is a German company that does the exact same thing, except that they focus on the German community, and so everything is localized for that community, and then if the people who buy the clone want to expand it by localizing it out further, then so be it. But that company does well because they are doing a value add for their particular clients. That's not the case with Zuckerberg. He's trying to bring it all in, to Meta. So let's see if there's anything else in here that really makes a difference. It's also Facebook's strategy of quashing competitors by launching its own high-budget initiatives have been employed by other tech giants too. It's also raised eyebrows among federal officials for veering into a territory of anti-competitive practices they call unfair methods of competition. This is also something that has been illegal in some states, where a gas station will be funded by the brand, and a private gas station on the other side of the street is an independent gas reseller, and they can undercut the competition because they are funded by the brand. That actually ends up falling in this unfair method of competition. The other thing, just like oh God, what's his name? Elon Musk, Zuckerberg can just he can buy the company wholesale because people want that money. And when $1 billion gets dropped in your lap, then you're going to sell. At least most people will. So he'll just buy his way into owning everything that he falls flat. Zuckerberg largely is just a one-hit wonder, and even that I don't think was even his idea, and litigation alone wasn't going to be enough to topple the billions that were at stake. The next article, the guy literally told people that everybody was an idiot for using his service, and people kept on using his service. The next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel as well. It's sourced from BusinessInsider.com. Meet a Gen Z remote worker who told her boss she was quiet quitting for the sake of her health. Quote, "I need to do my role as defined, but also not apologize for who I am." Gina Cobb was diagnosed with a chronic autoimmune illness last year. It's disability that can both mentally and physically be debilitating and interferes with her work. That's why she's quiet quitting, doing only her job as described and no more. And a lot of people want work-life balance. So it's something that a lot of people will struggle with, which amounts to I get paid to do a job, and if I do the job more efficiently because I am a subject matter expert and build tools that make my life easier, that should be the goal of my position, not simply grinding away for 40 hours a week. So let's see what this article actually goes into. Jason Lalji, I think I'm pronouncing their last name correctly, so correct me if I'm wrong. So let's see. The picture that's in the stream is not the one. It is not Cobb, by the way. It just happens to be a Getty image picture. So let's see what the article says. Cobb is 26, is a senior marketing strategist who works remotely in an international marketing firm based in Toronto, where she's been working for the past 2 years. She asked for that her real name, immune disorder, and company be kept private, but all have been verified by Insider, which is great. I can guarantee you that they would fire this person if they could figure out who it was, and it wasn't nebulous enough. Hell, they might still find a way. Sometimes called acting your wage, the practice involves doing your job as written for the pay you receive and no more. It might not even seem new or controversial, but it illuminates how workers are seeking to better work-life balance and reshaping their vision of 9 to 5, especially during the Great Resignation. Yeah, meanwhile, people are saying, the administrators in various places are saying that we have a 3.5% unemployment rate here in the United States. Yeah, I'm not feeling that. Quote, it was hard to separate what was caused by the anxiety of that job and what was caused by their illness. And I fault nobody for wanting better work-life balance. In fact, I don't understand why meetings right now are even taking place in the real world unless you want to. They should be done by Zoom or other distributed methods with high enough quality of camera and voice for everybody concerned to be fully engaged outside of shaking hands directly. But for whatever reason, there are some people that are just hell-bent on being in person, even though a ton of business is done without ever setting eyes on the person you're working with. I'm working on projects right now where we've never met, for crying out loud. It's all text message and phone call and email and other methods of getting the job done. And it's about communicating effectively, not shaking hands and being best friends with the person you're working with. That is actually nepotism, and it's rather disgusting that the only way that you can get a job done is because you are working in the same room with the person. That isn't nepotism, but being buddy with somebody and giving them exception and benefit because they are your buddy. And in person, just because they're in person doesn't make them more effective. Anyway, I'm conflating issues here. So when she got back to work, Cobb set boundaries. Her employers declined her request for a pay raise and promotion, she said, so she began to do only the tasks that were clearly outlined for her role. Yeah, but employers like to put that other duties as assigned bullshit in there. And I think that's exactly what it is. That other line, that one line, other duties as assigned, is their way of being able to abuse the employee. And I think that alone should be reason for union formation, to rid your contract, your employment contract, of that phrase. The next article, I'm going to move on. The next article is managers who went to business school are better at cutting pay than boosting sales, new study shows. Now, this is an old article, but I've been reading a study that is built around this one, and I heard another podcast about it over the weekend, and I read another article about this in a different way. It's a different phrase, it's a different context. But it all basically is the same. Managers who went to business school are better at cutting pay than boosting sales, new study shows. And when you read this article, it's over at Business Insider. It's actually from March 31st, 2022, but it popped up again on my radar. And so I went and found this article because I don't believe I talked about it back in March. When it comes down to it, is in both the US and Denmark, worker wages went down after firms hired managers with business degrees, and demand to hire MBA graduates is soaring. However, well, this article and all of the research that I've been reading and hearing about based off of this and other studies highlights the fact that wages are suppressed by these business managers for whatever reason. There's no real known reason why the wages are suppressed, but performance and the amount of money that comes in, the performance of the overall business does not rise with these MBAs. Some of this information can't be disclosed because of U.S. labor laws and I think it was the Denmark law as well. Like certain things could come forward from the United States and certain things could come from Denmark. But what they found was using the data from firms in Denmark and the United States, the NBER researchers found that wages fell within a few years at companies run by degreed managers in both countries, 6% within 5 years in the US and 3% in Denmark in the same amount of time. Non-business managers share profits with their workers, whereas business managers do not. And I think that is because business managers have drilled into their heads that the sole goal of an enterprise is to make money. And it isn't just to make money for the stakeholders, which is everybody that has an interest in the survivability of the company. No, they make money for the C-suite, the administrators, the shareholders, not the people that work for these people, right? All of the employees are basically tools. And I cannot count how many times I've heard from people that they can just replace workers, which may or may not be true, but it's sociopathic. Gone are the days, and they should be gone quite quickly. I'm hoping more and more. Again, I will continue to blame lead. And as the generation that was infused with lead slowly die off, you will see a more compassionate employer, because the newer management that does not go through business school with the mandate that a business make profit. That is their sole objective. And the person that said that statement regrets. By the time they die, they regretted making that statement. So at any rate, my point is, this has been now researched and proven that the only thing that soars within an enterprise that hires MBAs is executive pay. And it far outstrips what the common worker makes. We're talking by about 1,400%. So the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School of Business and the University School Chicago Booth School of Business reported the median salary of 2021 graduates grew $5,000 from the year before, hitting $155,000. That's Wharton's highest record median base salary ever, and 99% of students hunting for jobs received an offer. That's from Wharton. That's because Wharton basically is a big clique. Anybody that comes out of Wharton is perceived as being, well, let's just say, good. But if you look at the networking is really what it's all about. The people may be capable, but they're cherry picking who they allow in and who they allow out. So obviously, they're going to get whatever they get, and they only pick who they want. But there are very capable people out there that don't have the mindset that the sole goal is to reap as much money from the table as possible. A lot of businesses have a social perspective that's tertiary to the actual enterprise. You might sell something, and for each item that's sold, a tree is planted or shoes are given to somebody. Based on their findings, the researchers concluded that the typical ideologies of business school programs, which shifted in the 1970s, are responsible for the way that degreed business managers approach their work, namely that they emphasize shareholder values rather than worker ones, which is exactly what I just said. That's reflected by non-degreed managers tending to share greater sales and profits with their workers. Shocker, right? If you grow up with everyone telling you that you're a hammer, you end up seeing everything as nails. It's something that I said yesterday. Don't be that way. Be the change you want to see in the world. The next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel, and it's from CNBC. You need about $2 million to retire comfortably in Hawaii. And here's a list of 7 other expensive states. So Hawaii risks as the least affordable state to retire in 2022 if you are going to follow Bankrate's latest analysis. But there are 7 additional states that you might want to retire to, and when we're done here with this little chat, maybe you won't want to. Cheyenne Devon is the author of this over at CNBC. And the other 7 least affordable states to retire to in 2022 is Hawaii is number 1, California, of course, Connecticut, which I didn't suspect, Massachusetts, again, didn't suspect that, New Jersey, again, didn't suspect that, Vermont, and Rhode Island. These are all these New England kind of states, up there, up in the, if you're looking at a map, it's up there. Where 4 seasons are seriously 4 seasons, except for California and Hawaii, all of these are, when it gets cold, it's cold. So if you're set on retiring comfortably in Hawaii, you'll need about $2 million saved up. Good luck. Good luck with that. The median household income in Honolulu County, for example, is $88,000. If someone wanted to withdraw that $88,000 from their assets each year, they'd need about $2.2 million in investments to withdraw at a rate of 4%. However, most Americans don't have anywhere close to that amount saved. The typical American has about $35,345 saved for retirement, according to Vanguard's That is unbelievable. How America Saves report. That's unbelievable. Folks, we're in trouble. We're in some serious trouble. But a comfortable retirement can mean different things to different people. It's important to first determine what that looks like for you. So when retirement is not defined, then it's very difficult to prepare emotionally or financially speaking. And remember, while you're young, you spend all of your money on other things. When you get older, you spend your money on your health as it, declines. Hate to break it to you. And as my doctor told me when I was getting my hearing. So I used to have spectacular hearing, and I actually still do. I recovered from this, but I kind of blew out an eardrum. And when I showed up, I'm like, man, this is taking a little bit longer than I ever expected. And he said, well, your warranty is up, sir. And that kind of lit the beacons. And now I am saving up more so that I can take care of my health as it declines, and it inevitably does decline for everybody. So be prepared. Start saving now if you're young and stumbling into this stream. This next article I bring up simply because I try to include a social element in this, but it isn't about this, right? 185 people killed in Iran protests, human rights group says. So the Iran human rights said deaths include at least 19 children, with the highest number occurring in the Sistan and in Baluchistan province, which is located in Iran's southeast. I bring this up simply because there's a lot of people that are very upset, as if their society is raining down on them and they are oppressed and being marginalized and being harmed in some way by what the normal social order in the United States has been trending towards, which is moving away from oppressive mentalities. We have witnessed as a nation the oppressive nature of one regime or another around the world. Turkey pivoted. Other countries have pivoted from democracy to theocratic fascism, fundamentalism. This, Iran, did the same thing. China became xenophobic and put up the Great Firewall and is protecting its culture through rather oppressive functions, the likes of which only happens in theocratic fascist plutocracies. You cannot have a plurality of people yet force your opinions on them, wherein everybody else is subjected to your particular ideology, wherein it is closed and you have to follow a certain particular mandate of your kind of formation and not the plurality of the society at large, where it's more open, it's more engaging, it's giving more opportunity, it's compassionate, it's open for discussion, it allows for the plurality. Whereas right now the air is that we are moving towards a society where there's a loud subset, a small, loud, vitriolic subset that is making everyone else bow through might, through threats of violence. Whereas when somebody does reach the breaking point, when there is a group of people that have systemically been oppressed, rise up again. It's not the first time, it's again. And protest, and there are some agent provocateurs in there that turn a peaceful protest into a violent stampede of people. There's a problem here, but it isn't the peaceful protesters. And the peaceful protesters should be grabbing all of those agent provocateurs and holding them down for law enforcement to take them to jail for causing a violent uprising. It's a subtle but distinct separation here, okay? Everybody that went storming into the Capitol should be charged. The people that sat out on the grass and said, "What the hell's going on?" They're innocent bystanders that are simply sitting there observing this going, "What the hell's going on?" Just like when Black Lives Matter people start tearing up a building and setting cars on fire, those agent provocateurs need to be accountable, but the rest of the protesters are sitting there going, "What the hell's going on?" And the only way that they can do anything is by risking their own lives to stop somebody from being violent. This is the oppression right here. Iran, China, where if you protest, you get disappeared. Russia is the same way now. Many other countries are the same way. Here in the United States, we aren't at this. Not yet. But if we keep going down this fascist line, this is where we're going to end up. But that isn't the Democrat, that isn't the Republican bulk of the population. It's just a few wingnut, on the fringe people that have a lot of money and a lot of power, like those that are in Senate, because it's fixed at 100 people. So more power rises to those 100 people because it isn't diluted. And then you get the Supreme Court stacked and overtly conservative, but not just moderately conservative. We're pushing towards the wingnut side of conservative. It poses a serious problem, but not everybody is like that, folks. So we need a moderate response as a citizenry. We need to realize that there are some bad actors that are doing great harm to this nation by pushing this wingnut agenda. But again, this is where we're going to end up, where women can't walk around because there's some mandate written somewhere that says that, oh, it's prideful. Zach Schoenfeld is the author of this over at The Hill. And they go into how this came about. Basically, one woman was killed in police custody, the morality police. Does that sound familiar, folks? Building a wall. Does that sound familiar? They aren't us. Doesn't that sound familiar? Amini's family said that she was severely beaten while in custody, although Iranian officials have said that she died from a heart attack. Yeah, from the beating, dipshits. Sparking protests across the country for weeks that have involved some women burning their hijabs and publicly cutting their hair. You can practice what you want to practice. Nobody's ever said that you can't. But don't force your beliefs on other people. We are a plurality of people, of human beings. We don't share the exact same ideology. And to those who think that everybody has to be like them, that's sociopathic. Talk to a counselor about this, but you won't, because it's science-based. It's based on history of understanding the human condition. And you can't do that, right? Let's move on. The next article is in the continuity report, and Star Trek Picard reunites Next Generation cast, announces return of classic enemies in new Season 3 trailer. A new trailer for the third and final season of Paramount's Star Trek Picard launched out of the New York Comic-Con Saturday, revealing new additions to the Patrick Stewart-led show's cast, including the return of some iconic villains from Star Trek The Next Generation. My understanding is that Patrick Stewart didn't really want to rebuild Star Trek The Next Generation. I'm not sure really more beyond that. Jennifer Moss is the author of this article over at Variety. And per Paramount Plus, Brent Spiner will be back on Picard, not as Data, but as a character the streamer describes as named Lore, evoking one of the most formidable villains in Next Generation history, Data's evil twin, Lore, who was defeated and disassembled at the beginning of Season 7 of Next Generation. Additionally, Daniel Davis will return as Professor Moriarty from the Star Trek Next Generation holodeck personification of a fictional character created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle to be an enemy for Sherlock Holmes, which was Data. So this is going to get pretty complex. I won't get into all of this. You'll have to go over to the article and read more about the specifics of it. But the final season of Star Trek Picard premieres on Thursday, February 16th on Paramount Plus. New episodes of the 10-episode long season will drop weekly on Thursdays. Yeah, I can't wait. Although what I want is a real world Lower Decks. I don't know. I love Lower Decks. I love pretty much everything, every iteration of Star Trek. But what I want is a long-running, more episodes per season series of Star Trek, with a cast that I don't know, I can attach to. I mean, I love every single series of Star Trek, but I just want one that runs another full 8 years, 10 years, and isn't necessarily like the offerings right now. Lower Decks is about as cheerful and non-dark as you can get, but every other Star Trek series that's out right now, that's in the channel, is just dark. I don't know. It's not, doesn't have the same feel to me as Next Generation and before, So I don't know. It just has a darker air to it. So I think I'm more interested in a shift back to the more positive side. It seemed like even when there was trouble, the air that you got from the show was that it was going to be a positive outcome. But somewhere along the line, it shifted. Let's move on to the next article. This next article is SNL lampoons Try Guys controversy with sketch mimicking response video to Ned Fulmer's exit. I thought this one was interesting because it happened so fast. Saturday Night Live parodied the intense social media reaction to the drama surrounding popular online comedy group The Try Guys with a sketch that featured parodies of the group's remaining 3 members. Episode host Brendan Gleeson, who was on the show to promote his upcoming film The Banshees of Inisherin, starred in the sketch. And I watched this. This was actually kind of funny, but I didn't have the context for it because I don't watch The Try Guys. Wilson Chapman is the author of this over at Variety.com. And so one of the 4 Try Guys, I guess, bowed out, did something because so he was fired from the group after admitting to a consensual workplace relationship with a producer of the group's online video series. But CNN wrote something about it, and when it became a skit in SNL, I was like, wow, the Try Guys, they're millionaires, like they say in the skit, but you've made it when you're even when you are the foundation for a skit in SNL, and I went and looked at their stats, and they've gone up like 30,000 subscribers or something like that since the Saturday airing of this. I think that's what I saw. I'd have to go back and look at Social Blade again. But it says it's obviously an evolving story, but CNN can confirm that the Try Guys. So this is they were pretending to be CNN over on SNL. And so CNN can confirm that the Try Guys have released an official video clapping back at ex-Try Guy Ned Fulmer, the wife guy Try Guy. Gleason says he disrespected the brand by making out with one of the food babies at the Harry Styles concert, referring to the details of the scandal. So this is basically the nuts and bolts of the skit, because it starts out as a White House correspondent, Brendan Gleeson, reporting and then breaking into the skit. Like, hey, we got to stop talking about the White House and talk about the Try Guys. So yeah, it was really funny for them to do a CNN tie-in to this, because it's kind of like a bash on CNN too. Bowen Yang, Mikey Day, and Andrew Dismukas, I guess, played the 3 Try Guys: Eugene Lee Yang, Zach Kornfeld, and Keith Habersberger, appearing on CNN in a video formation identical to the one seen on their initial video addressing Fulmer's exit from the video series. That's a lot of video, and a lot of names, so I'm going to move on. The next article is in the 4-Wheel Tech channel, and that is Rivian recalls 12,212 EVs due to potentially loose suspension. On Friday, Rivian issued a recall for more than 12,000 electric vehicles due to potentially suspension components. That's a hell of a typo there, or grammar issue. Anyway, the problem affects model year 2022 Rivian R1T trucks, R1S SUVs, and some Rivian EDV delivery vans, a total of 12,212, which is interesting. It's a palindrome. Anyway, oh no, it's not. 12,212. Anyway, in mid-August, Rivian discovered that an upper control arm had separated from the steering knuckle in one of its vehicles. The company began an investigation, and by the end of September had identified 6 potentially related to this issue that had accumulated over the course of production. So they did a recall, which is fine, great, wonderful, but it's still 12,212 EVs. Jonathan M. Gitlin is the author of this over at Ars Technica. It's a pretty looking truck, but I don't know. How much does it cost now? 100 and something thousand. So that's pretty much all of this article. But you can go over and take a look at the picture and show them your interest. The next article is in the Warcrafters channel, and let's throw that over into the Showbot so that you can vote on it if you... Well, there we go. As reported on Massively Overpowered, Bethesda and ZeniMax Online have announced that they will allow Google Stadia players to transfer characters and progress to the PC version of the game. The studios joined the likes of Bungie and IO Interactive in rescuing players from streaming platform, which is set to shut down in January. Which is just a real pisser. I mean, I don't know. Everybody is getting refunds and stuff like that, but still. So they say, we are happy to share that our Stadia players will be able to transfer their ESO accounts to PC, bringing with them all of their progress, but including but not limited to existing characters, purchased items, achievements, and inventory. And the announcement shared to Twitter reads, since Stadia players already play ESO on their PC servers, all of their friends and guilds will be waiting for them once they complete the transfer. And this just sucks. Google's shutting it down, just like they did. So Google has been offering, and in history, who knows how long this really should have persisted. But so people who had a domain name used to be able to attach it to Google and use their domain name with Google services, and everything was just the same. It was the exact same as Google. Okay, so you use the email just like a Gmail account. You didn't have to use all of the services that are attached to a pay for Google account, but you had your own branded domain. Well, a couple of months ago, Google started sending out emails to all of these branded domain holders saying, well, a decade ago you signed up for this and we're pulling the plug on it. So now you have to pay $5. I think it's actually $6 per month per account for every email address that you have that used to be attached for free. Even though, again, there's nothing fundamentally different between my branded domain names and Gmail. They're still parsing for ads. They're still doing the same thing in the interface until you pay. So why make people suddenly pay? Well, it's because some people wanted to keep their branded name. So why not just charge for the branded domain? And guess what? It's already housed in Google. A lot of people use the domain services from Google. But what they're doing is they're chopping off anything that isn't overtly making money. And Stadia was that way. It had to have much more oversight, security operations, technical sophistication that had to have subject matter experts that were costing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year per person that was policing it. again and again and again, all kinds of maintenance and cost, but they weren't making enough money by the people that were using it. So off it goes, and it just gets summarily cut off instead of giving it a long tail so people can gracefully move over. Everybody panics, and you either lose your account because you can't go anywhere, or some developer becomes abundantly capable of moving users over to some other platform. But what if they were dedicated to Google Stadia? And they apparently didn't get any warning. One person whose fate remains uncertain in the great Stadia disaster of 2022, 2023 is the streamer Color. So this is my last article. Ted Litchfield is the author of this article over at PC Gamer, and I'm just going to scroll down to find. Let's see, where is he? I'm trying to find the person. One person's fate is Color. You know, the guy with 6,000 hours of Red Dead Online in Stadia. Rockstar has yet to officially address the fate of their players on the platform, and the author's heart goes out to Color and his fellow Stadia cowpokes. It would be neither rootin' nor tootin' to lose that much progress on a game, I tell you what. I mean, this is just... This is the problem with having to have increased profits far and above what would be respectable to maintain the status quo of the operation and plan for the future, right? Arguably, the mandate in business has always been 3%. 3%. That's supposed to be the perceived beneficial interest rate, which means that everybody else should be getting 3%. But where does that 3% come from? Why does that 3% actually exist? Well, I can tell you it's because an economist came up with this BS idea that is what is sufficient for a growing economy. Well, a growing economy is everybody getting paid enough so that they can survive, and there's opportunity, and there isn't any nepotism, and whatever. I'm going to end up going down this spiral if I keep talking about it, because this is really a long-term problem, and we need a shift in society that moves away from this idea that everything has to be exploitive, everything has to be massively profitable. Because what does it matter if you have a $2 trillion business if everybody is suffering because you are trying to get your business bigger by 25% every single month? It's sociopathic. At any rate, I'm done for today. I will try and get this out as the podcast and over to YouTube as soon as possible. Have a good night. See you tomorrow, 6 p.m. It's Monday. Bye-bye.